Welcome to the Providence College Podcast. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you like what you hear, please review and share with others. Email podcast@providence.edu with questions or comments. Go Friars!
Hello and welcome to the Providence College Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Chittum, and I'm joined by our producer and PC videographer, Chris Judge. As a major gift officer at PC, I have met hundreds of fascinating people within the Providence College community, and I'm excited to share some of their stories with you. So today we have Senior Vice President and CFO of Providence College, John Sweeney. John is also a parent of a 2015 grad and a rising sophomore here at Providence College. You've been here now for 7 years. Before that, you were at Eastern Connecticut for 10 years. And this past April, you were named CFO of the Year by the Providence Business News. So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
And thanks for joining us. I love the voice. You're made for audio. You say I have a face for radio. You have a voice for radio. Thanks for coming on today. And we're excited to talk to you about just the construction that's going on campus. It's been great. We've had a lot of feedback on the podcast, and one thing that's been pretty consistent is people want to know, hey, we've heard stuff is going on campus. We just would love to hear more about it. So with that in mind, could you just give us just a quick list of what's going on right now from a project perspective, and what's the summer construction focus?
Yeah, one of the things that we view the summer as unfortunately a short window to get a lot of things done. Because we try to minimize the disruption to our students and our faculty and staff during the academic year. So it puts a lot of energy into a few months, and we've been fortunate this summer with relatively dry conditions, which help to make projects go.
Right.
The two huge projects that we have going is the School of Business, the Ryan Center for Business Studies, is well underway. It will open for the spring semester in 2017, so it's opening this academic year. This is being constructed by Demio, who built the Ryan Center for the Humanities, and it was designed by SMMA, who did work on the Schneider Arena and the Kincannon Fitness Center and a number of other projects on our campus. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very, very exciting. We've taken Dorr Hall, added an atrium and a classroom wing. And what's also fantastic about it is what's in front of it, which was the Davis parking lot, and that's going to become now a lawn. And it reaches up to the other big project that we're doing, which is the conversion of Huxley Avenue to a pedestrian way. And that happens by closing the Eaton Street side and creating a traffic circle that comes from Huxley Avenue from the Admiral Street side.
And when you say the Eaton Street side, you mean from the old Huxley Gate to Eaton Street?
That's right. And what we have is we're putting in a traffic circle, a new guardhouse, and a bus station so that in one place people can circulate to both sides, what was both sides of campus, the lower and the upper, or the east and the west side of campus, and bring it so it improves circulation on campus, and improves the appearance. And one of the great things about it is the safety and security of our students and our faculty and staff that are not crossing a busy road like Huxley Avenue. So that'll be pedestrian from near our Davis Hall and Encino and that area that's going to become on the second phase into really grass areas and sitting areas and pedestrian walkways, and a new gate or new pedestrian entrance that'll be at the light at Eaton Street.
And this is an ongoing project, obviously, with a big summer push. And next Thursday, so when this podcast comes out, 3 or 4 days after people may be hearing this, is Freshman Move-In Day. So how is that going to impact Freshman Move-In Day or anything like that?
Well, we carefully plan Freshman Move-In Day in staging areas, and so the assigned times when people are showing up are very critical. But it'll be fully paved and fully operational.
Wow.
There'll be some landscaping things that still need to be done, but this will be something which it'll just smooth the movement around campus. So it's been a very hectic project that we've managed. Jacobone Construction has been the lead on it, and they've been doing an incredible job. The people working on it are working extraordinarily hard. So I've been very pleased with that project. We have a lot of work to finish up, but that's the way it is with these projects. And it's really part of campus transformation. And one of the things is there's a transformation link on our webpage about scroll down one screen. And in there's a webcam where you can watch the work ongoing at both the Circle and the School of Business. And you also can get updates and information about all the different projects, including what the transformation will look like when it's done.
And we'll be sure to put that in the show notes for this podcast. And for those of you who haven't been on the PC website in a while, John, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's on the Momentum page within the PC website, but that will be in the show notes as well.
That's right. And then you get to see our videographer, Chris, here, riding his bike and flying his drone around, so you can really see. It's interesting because how often do you get to see from 300 feet up how a campus looks?
Right.
And that's one of the exciting things, and you notice things in different ways. So those are the two big projects that are ongoing. The other big project that's very exciting is the beginning of the work on the expansion and renovation of Alberta's Hall, Alberta's Soa and Hickey. What we're doing now is we're moving the utilities, putting in the foundation for an addition, which will be about 35,000 square feet to the science complex.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know, that those three buildings are already connected, and that's where all of our sciences are done.
Right, and what we're doing is putting an addition on with some new labs, new classrooms, some new offices, and then we'll start a phased renovation of that entire complex.
And what does a phased renovation mean?
That means what we try to do is, because we actually have to occupy the buildings during the academic year, is that you try to do as much work during the summer. You do it piece by piece. So one summer you take a couple of floors and you work and you renovate them, and then the next summer, and you stop, and then the next summer you do another piece of work. And so by 4 phases, we've completely redone the building, so it's a brand new building inside and out. And we did that with Harkins Hall in 2010 and 2011. Started out as a planned 3-year project, but in 2 years we completely renovated and basically made that a new building, but really keeping the value of what was there and what was special about that building.
So does each phase match like 1 year's time? Is that how a timeline works out?
Well, yeah, but a lot of the times is that during the academic year we're almost dormant. Mm-hmm. So it's really the May to August that we go in and we go like gangbusters. And some of it is also once the new building is built, you relocate people into that, and then you go work on their piece of the building, and then you do it. So it's a very scientific, very planned aspect of one thing has to build off another. So it's a very complicated, but we're working with SLAM Collaborative, which has done wonderful science buildings from MIT to Duke to Emory to Notre Dame, working with them, and they were also the architects of the Lorraine Center for the Humanities, which has been an enormous success. So that is a project that we're working right now on. It's been dug up and utilities are being reassigned, so that's great. The other project is the Ruane Center, the Ruane Friar Development Center, and that'll be starting in earnest in the fall, and that is a basketball practice facility. It is a renovation of some parts of Slavin, 64 Hall, expansion of career services, and enclosing the area between alumni and Slavin, that outside patio between that is always shaded and often flooded.
Why would you want to redo that? That's such a beautiful little area.
Well, some people actually miss the Slavin steps, and I always hear about that, and I'm like, you get a beautiful atrium where you don't get rained or snowed upon, so I don't know how people hung out at the Slavin steps back then. But the critical piece on this is that coming to Providence College period of time, and I've been a fan of Providence College since I was a kid, a big basketball fan, and so I understand about Providence College to a certain extent, and it's been a wonderful experience working with the Dominicans, and just how fortunate we are as an institution to have their leadership. But what we've been trying to do is just really match the quality of the buildings and the facilities to the quality of the people and the programs. And I think we're catching up to it, but to me there was a gap between that. And it's very exciting when you see, like the Ruane Center for the Humanities, the biggest complaint we get from that was we weren't keeping it open enough, long enough hours. And, and the way students have adopted that building, and faculty say they feel like they teach better in that building, but the students there at all hours using that to study and to interact, and it's just really kind of a pleasing to see that. And also spaces inside and out of that building have been really wonderful.
It really is great, and that's for sure, and it's easy to see why that's been such a catalyst for a lot of stuff that's happened on campus. But obviously, when you talk about this many capital projects, a lot of people want to ask, is this important? Is this necessary? You see a lot of changes on campus, and people know that that's a big capital expense as well, and we want to be sensitive to those issues. So you have this kind of competing interest perspective, and when you're making these decisions, how much of that kind of weighs on you, or what do you take into your decision-making process?
I mean, part of it is, as an institution, you have to compete, and you have to provide the support for the programs. But really, these projects would not be able to be done if there wasn't for the generosity of our donors. And, Matt, you know that in working with our alums, it's just how supportive of the institution they are, how much they really believe, and this is a place that changed their lives. And what makes these projects happen is that philanthropy, that giving and that support. And some of it's some big dollars and some of it's smaller amounts that have happened. But that's what makes the difference on it. We fund projects in 3 ways. We've issued some modest amount of debt, bonds at very low interest rates. We were able to fund a lot of that through refinancing higher old bonds into the low current rate environment. We allocate a certain amount of the operating budget to maintain buildings, to do the less attractive stuff, but like the pipes and the wiring and all the other stuff that you dig up the ground, you put new pipes in, and it saves energy, but it isn't. It doesn't look any better when you put it all back together again. But all of that comes together. It's really private gifts, a little bit of bonds, and then allocating money into doing that. And really, what the students expect and parents and families expect is value for their education. And I think one of the things that in each of these things, we build very efficient buildings. We only build the amount that we need and the space that we need on it. And what we're seeing is a growth in enrollment in a time when some colleges are really challenged. People want to come to Providence College. Our applications are up. Our incoming class it'll be 6 years, it'll be growing. So they're all very positive signs that what we're investing in is resonating with people. We've also been attracting incredible young faculty that have been hired here. 60% of our faculty have been hired over the last 10 years during Father Shanley's leadership, and Dr. Lena, who's our provost. And that's been a very special, very energized. So we have the wonderful faculty that have been here a while, but then the young, energetic faculty have just been really connecting with the students.
Right, and I'd love to hear your take on this when I talk to either PC alum or I talk to prospective parents and things like that, and I talk about some of the capital projects that we're currently working on, which you detailed earlier. Basically, one of the things I try to highlight is that these are foundation elements to Providence College. So it's not as if we're going out and trying to say, hey, we're starting an engineering school or a nursing school, and nothing against those sorts of academic programs, but we're basically sticking to, I guess, our core competencies and trying to expand on those and improve those instead of going out on a lark and trying to gain market share, if you want to use, say, business terms, in trying to gain, can get more students on campus. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I certainly would. I think, the part about that we talk about the Fryer family as a parent of 2 students, and to separate myself of from working here is that it's really a great sense of community. And part of it is when we build buildings and we do improvements, is you can't lose that. You can't lose sight of it's the individual and it's their growth and their development. That's the critical part of our mission. You know, and the other thing I think that we're really blessed is really the strength of the Dominican order as just having its 800th anniversary of creation, is that it's the number of men and women that are entering the Dominican order is at huge levels, high levels. And what it does is that while a lot of Catholic institutions are struggling to maintain their identity, is that we're being blessed with so many men and women in the pipeline to help us maintain that Dominican presence. Because especially what I hear from the alums is there's always several Dominicans that made such a difference in their lives, and they're here and they're around, and they're you know, all shapes and sizes and ages now. And that's one of the great things, the energy that some of our younger Dominicans bring to this college is something that I know is special, and special with the students.
Right. So you mentioned earlier that the Ryan Center for Business Studies, that will be completed for a second semester of this academic year. When are the other projects that you mentioned kind of planning on being completed? Yeah,
well, the circle will be done. The first phase of closing Huxley will be done with the start of school, with a little odds and end work done into September. But that'll be completed. The second half of that will be closed to traffic, but we're going to make those improvements in next summer. So continuing with that tack of trying to minimize the disruption. The science building, the addition, main part of the construction and erecting the steel will happen after commencement next May. And that'll take about 15 months to be done, so that'll be open the fall of 18.
Okay.
The Friar Development Center will be developed in periods of time, but we're probably talking, once we get started with construction, about 15 months for the first phase of it, and then the subsequent phase will be time to minimize disruption to the student center, so it'll be probably the summer after that.
And the phase one, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, so phase one is more the basketball practice facility, phase two is more expansion of career ed, Slavin, that part?
Well, really the phase one is the basketball practice space and strength and conditioning, but it's also beginning the phase two and closing the area between alumni and Slavin. Because that's going to add so much usable space. And as you know, Matt, from being in Slavin, going through Slavin at different hours, our students in our community use that at all hours and in great numbers. So adding more space to student use space is going to be a real benefit to that. And also, we hope to, 64 Hall really needs updating as the kind of the main congregation area for events or speakers, and to modernize that, expand that a little bit, and make it more flexible space is something that I think that will benefit so many different groups on campus.
Right. So we talked a little bit about move-in day. It's next Thursday. You're a current PC parent. You're a parent of someone who graduated from PC 2015. Any advice for incoming parents who aren't already alums?
Don't bring too much stuff. You can always get it later, and you don't need 12 cases of water to stock them up. We actually do have waters, and kids use refillable bottles. But especially when you're in McVinney, my daughter lived on the 8th floor of McVinney, and that's always the challenge. But I think we have a lot of people helping on the first day. But I would say is leave the winter clothes at home, unless you live that far away. If you're within a day's driving distance, bring something up later on and come visit the campus in the beautiful fall when the leaves are turning. And that's the thing, is try to minimize the amount. You don't need everything. And it's amazing, we have there's wonderful stores all through Providence where you can pick up anything you need.
The cases of water is always a good one. I used to work in admissions at another school, and I was always surprised how many people brought cases of water. It was almost like people were preparing for a flood. Well, that's true. And I guess another question, you've been in this role, not only at PC, but at Eastern Connecticut State as well. If you didn't have this role, but you're still in higher ed, what job would you want to have out of school?
Well, the fun thing about, and before I was 10 years at Eastern, I was 7 years working with UConn, the UConn Health Center, and a bunch of higher education institutions. But the fun thing about is doing what I do at a college campus. I love being around students. I also love being around the intellect of the faculty and the staff on that. So my job around here, I would do anything just to be on campus. That'd be the fun part of it. And so, I thought about it as, I taught finance for a year, and I might like to teach. But while I'm a finance person, I have a secret love for history. So, but unfortunately, I don't have the credentials to teach history, but I'd love to do some of that. So maybe a professor, history or a finance professor.
All right, there you go. Maybe you can work in both.
That's the history of finance.
Right, there you go. And then just one other thing, I should have mentioned this earlier, the official groundbreaking for the Ruane Fire Development Center, that's going to be St. Dominic weekend.
During St. Dominic's weekend,
correct,
yeah.
Right. So that's the weekend between October and September. It's always the same year, always the same time of the year. And there's already been some stuff going on with that.
Yeah, we've been moving utilities and getting ready because the area will take up some parking. So we've purchased some homes on the edges, so that'll be converted to parking. So there's a number of things that go on. And, I just outlined the big projects. We have a lot of other smaller projects. And one of the things I'm also excited about is tonight is the first soccer game at Chappie Anderson Stadium. Our women take on Boston College tonight at 7. So it'll be after. So I'm predicting a victory for the Friars tonight.
We can just people hear this. The game will have already been played, so we can just congratulate them ahead of time. Congratulations on victory.
But that's also exciting to have the use on the soccer. We had the lacrosse games last spring, but to have the men's and women's soccer using that field is something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that is wonderful, and that really ties into that kind of that central column of campus that's being renovated.
Yeah.
Right along that Huxley Avenue part.
Well, one of the things that how we've distributed our dollars is that academic programs will have gotten the lion's share and will continue to get the lion's share of the money. So the School of Business, the Ruane Center for Humanities, the improvements to the science complex, and that's really the bulk. What we've also done is, while we've made improvements on the athletic fields, a critical piece of those is that, 80% of the students coming to Providence College have played a varsity sport in high school. And the participation in club and recreational sports, the intramurals and stuff, is just huge here. And so one of the things, like when we built a new softball field, we decided to go with artificial turf. So it's used not only by the varsity intercollegiate team, but it's also used for intramurals. So the thrill of being on a beautiful field, any student who wants to can have that experience by playing intramural softball.
Right.
What we did on the Hendricken field, we finally added a track, considering the great and storied history of Providence College running, added a track which the community is using, at all the time. But that field is really a club and intramural field first. Mm-hmm. So the turf is even designed for the rugby team, the length of it. But that's one thing, while there's some intercollegiate practices that happen on it, the part was that was built for our whole student body.
And I forget the website or magazine, but we were ranked first last year in the country in intramural sport. I think participation in terms of per capita per campus.
And that complex was track and field of the year last year by Field Sports magazine. So it's something that we want to do projects, we want to do them well, they serve the community. And what's also another kind of trick is that when you have vast stretches of land, one of the easiest ways to beautify them is to make them into a field, because they have very high use on it. And I tell you, one of the things that at our open house for accepted students 2 years ago, the lacrosse team was practicing out on Hendricken Field at 8:45 in the morning, and all the parents are walking by. And that used to be such kind of a dead area.
Yeah.
After it was used sporadically, and all the parents and the students walking by are looking over there and seeing all the energy and all the excitement of what's going on there at 8:45. It makes a difference. It brings a lot of energy to a part of campus.
I feel that on a daily basis. Our office is in Harkins. It actually overlooks the track, and I think twice a week I look out and I see the professionals that are track and cross country coach Ray Tracy's coaching, and you see some of the best runners in the world just running along the track as if they're just people in the community or students. And even that is just, at first, it's awe-inspiring. You look out, you see Molly Huddle, you see Kim Smith, you see Emily Sisson running around. You're like, wow, this is amazing that these people are just on campus every day, and you're just kind of around, Olympians.
Well, you realize the difference between the Olympic level, international level runners and good runners and the average Joe. It's always amazing on that. But and it's also how fortunate we have a great group with the athletic department. The coaches are really, in so many of the sports, are really just top-notch coaches and good people too. And they kind of want to be here at Providence College and be a part of the community. And I think that really kind of ties it together. And we have about 350 student athletes, and I love what, the NCAA gets criticized for a lot, but I love most of them major in something other than their sport, when they're leaving, and that's
right.
a real credit. They're students first, and student athletes kind of second.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, John. This has been fantastic. We talked earlier about the website, the Momentum website on the Providence College webpage. Is there anything else you'd want to direct interested alums to?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you can follow along on the Facebook, and there's a lot of good material there. But I say you got to come visit the campus. If you can possibly come to the campus and walk around and to see and to talk to people, I think the reaction and the experience we get, it feels that, we're trying to be good stewards to the place that made such a difference in your life. And, so that's what I'd suggest is you can follow along on these ways, and we have publications, and but during our centennial celebration year, find a reason to come here for a speaker, or an event, or a mass, or an athletic event somewhere. Come here and be a part of it. And I think then you'll really experience it in a way that's a lot better than just hearing me talk about it or seeing it on the internet.
Well, you've been great. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody listening to this episode.
Go Friars.